My daddy used to tell me you could tell a lot about a person by looking at his hands. When you look at these hands, you see patience, self-assurance, introspection, and kindness. These are the hands of Don Craig, more affectionately known to some of you, and now all of us, as Potter. Nancy and I traveled up near the site of the Dayglow festivals and met with Don at a house where he's lived for 23 years.
I got a resident hawk, stays right here. I got a couple of pileated woodpeckers that stay here pretty close. Cool. And my piano, it's about seen better days. Strings are about gone and rusted up. It amuses me sometimes.
We walked down to the river with Don and his dog Gypsy, where stacks of rocks stood like sentinels, guarding the solace and tranquility Don finds there. He never really explained the purpose of stacking, but the results are almost mystical.
Yeah, I still got a business over on Highway 10. I just lease it. Body shop, car lot.
Okay.
I used to do did a lot of insurance work. And then I did a lot of rebuilding too. But I did that, and then I had two boys coming along, and I planned on them going into business. My oldest boy was really interested in cars. That was his thing. But at 18, he came down schizophrenia, and that just changed everything. And so after that, I decided to do this. I'd done it all my life, but just kind of played with it, you know. Never tried to make any money out of do anything serious. But I did that, and I surprised myself. I was drafted, married, went to Vietnam, had 9 days left. I've seen a lot of things, but 9 days left to start my shipping out process. And a rocket come in and hit the tent beside of mine, and there was 9 killed and 21 of us seriously wounded. And when I crawled out of the tent, the next tent of me was gone. Everything just looked like trash. And finally they got me. I was one of the last ones. I wasn't that seriously wounded. From the right thigh, I lost my left kneecap. And one of the last ones to go on the ambulance. And when they loaded me on the ambulance, on a stretcher, they told me, said, you turn your head sideways. So I did, and they slid me in, and what they did, it was under somebody's boot hanging, with a foot in it. With just enough meat to hold it about the size of your finger. And all the way down to the infirmary, that boot was doing that. And that burned in my brain. Then down at the infirmary, the guy that I just spent the last few hours with, talking with him on his bunk bed, he shot a picture of his wife and little girl. Never seen this baby. And just got that picture, and we looked at it, and he had a little bit of liquor left he'd saved for months. And me and him finished off that liquor. And so went down there, and he was laying beside me on the bunk, and he died. I had a piece of shrapnel went in his skull, just a little place it made, but that messed me up. But I didn't realize it messed me up for a long, long time, to be honest. You know. Well, there is no such thing as a good war. There is no good war. I don't care what they say. There's no winners. It's all wars. I don't understand how civilization could be thousands of years old and has not progressed no more. And to be able to understand that you waste all this money and energy and never accomplish nothing. It's all ego. That amazes me. All my life, I think it was a life-changing thing, midlife crisis. I ended up here, and it was meant to be. Found the clay after I decided to make pottery. I already lived here. Everything just worked out in the right, come to right at the right time. My father, he started when he was 14. He was one of 12 children and lived right above the home place there in Vail then. And he was a big boy for 14. And he would take his father's mule down to Jim Lynn's pottery, which is behind the present day pottery now, and use his mill, get a quarter to grind clay. A mill, like a molasses mill, the chain thing. And he wanted him to, asked him to make pottery, learn how to make pottery, and he told him, said, well, that was in the fall, said by spring of the year, said if I can make a sellable piece, I will, but if I can't, I'll have to go to work in the sawmill or the cotton, in the cotton field. And it was during all that Depression, so things were tough. But spring of the year, he could make a sellable piece of pottery, so he was on his way. And received, he lived to be 88, worked up until he died. That's what he wanted. He was National Endowment for the Arts Award winner, has a permanent display in the Smithsonian. And most of every major museum in the country. If I had to say one person that influenced me most in my life, it's probably my mother. She was the matriarch of the family. My father was the most famous and so talented and so, he was so strong and had so much energy to put into everything. But my mother was the true strength and the brain and everything else behind it, and the most inspirational to my mother, no doubt. Well, the Rainbow Gathering, which has influenced mine and Kelly's life a lot. I will speak for him on this, I think. It's here in North Carolina in 1987, and I'd had some other experiences in life, and I actually went to junior high school in Orange County, California in 1961. And of course, California was a lot different from a hillbilly life, and maybe that started me on my way, but I've always kind of considered myself a flower child because I was born, in 1945. And we happened to hear of it, so we went. Been a week. It was a life-changing experience. To see that many hippies, that many different gathering of the tribes, they call it. And they gathered, this was a national on July the 4th week. And they go into a national forest, a public land, and have the gathering, and they, nobody's in charge. But they do have a central food supply, and they have kitchens set up to feed people. All you need, you don't eat nothing, but they ask you to bring a cup, put your food in, a mug or something. And they'll take care of you. Camping, you meet some of the most amazing people from around the world. And the experience of the love that you can actually feel. People walk up and give you a hug, say I love you, and you can feel it. And they have a gathering on July the 4th that morning and have a silent prayer vigil. And nobody speaks, not a word is said till noon. Everybody walks to this circle, together hands. And like in Minnesota, you could not see the other side of the circle. That many people. And then at noon, they would start the drum beat. Real slow, beat it up. And then at noon, they'll let out, everybody will let out a big scream. Let it all out. And then the drums will cut loose. You can feel the energy of all these people. It's just a wonderful experience. Pray for world peace. That's the main thing. Kelly's father, Max, and his grandfather, Tom, garage goes back to when they first started making automobiles, I guess. But, and it was half a mile above the house where I lived there in Northbrook. And when I got out of Vietnam, the VA would pay for you to go to school, so I went to Cleveland Tech to take auto body. And after school, I would stop at the garage and work for Max. He'd let me work on cars. And he'd pay me. But it was hard work. I learned a lot from working for Max. And Kelly would come in from school. I think he was probably about 10 or something then. And I don't know why, it's just destiny. I mean, it just like it was never nothing said, nothing need to be said. We just clicked from the very beginning and always have. Never had a disagreement. When I goof up, he don't say nothing to me, and he goofs up, I don't say anything to him. It's like, you know. But it's just, we've had a special kindred spirit, I don't know. And everything we've done just made us stronger to bind, you know. The Rainbow Gatherings, we went to Texas, went to Nevada, went to Minnesota, you know, we've been to Mexico, Canada, had some great times together. Been to a lot of good music. He's played a lot of different kind of music, and he always just fascinated me at how intense, you know, he is at drumming and all. But, just as he's the true brother. He's a true brother. You can count on him, depend on him. I can call him up right now, and he'd probably be right here for what he's doing. Well, I started out by finding the clay and getting it out of the ground. I dry it and run it to an agricultural hammer mill, grinder and mixer, and it turns it into a powder. Then I can put it into a mixer, and it's all uniform. The reason I do that, and then add the water, and you have good usable clay, and then you make your pots, you dry them, you glaze them, do any underglaze you're going to do, you glaze it, you fire it, usually about 11 to 12 hours, and voila, hopefully you got a pot, a sellable piece. But, I don't know, I feel like I see all this foolishness in politics and stuff that's going on, but I did red and white stripes, like the flag, vertical across the face, and in the corner here, where the star is supposed to be, I actually did a star, did one with a cross, I did one with 3 bullet holes, I've doing one with a dollar mark on it. The things that I see that's in society and what's happening, but we'll see where it goes. That's just something new I'm taking up, and it's exciting for me to do it, and something new. I can't wait to see where it goes. We might make some enemies, you never know. There was a fella called R.E. Moses. My father ran a store up on 18, and the sawmill hands would come in there. And he had a bunch of sawmill hands, R.E. did, and he was known to be pretty tight. Well, he gave one of the hands a ham, a country ham. Well, everybody, you know, it was an old ham. It'd been in hanging for a couple of years. And they asked him one day, said, well, how was that ham? He said, well, it's just right. He said, if it would have been any better, I wouldn't have got it. And if it had been any worse, I couldn't have eaten it. It was just right. So this place, if it had been any worse, I couldn't live here. If it had been any better, I couldn't afford it. So it's just right.
After spending a little time with Don, you can't help but feel that we all need to walk a little softer on this planet that we all call home.